Hi, my name is Kevin Thomas W1DED, and this is Q5 Ham Radio. In episode 1 of this how-to contesting series, Mark K1RX and I talked about where contesting fits into the larger amateur radio experience and why it accelerates learning and engagement in the hobby. In this episode, we bring that discussion down to ground level. We take a clear snapshot of your current station and operating environment, what equipment really matters, and why contest weekends provide the most honest assessment of performance. Q5 Ham Radio is supported by DX Engineering, supporting contesters at every stage of the journey. Welcome back, Mark.
Good to be back. Thank you.
So tell me about episode 2. What do we want to cover in this?
Episode 2. Here we want to kind of do that snapshot, as you referred, at what take a look at what you've got currently sitting on the desk. Granted, it was probably the selection of equipment was probably based on some recommendations from, say, a fellow club member or something you saw on the internet or somebody talking about this, and their opinion was, hey, this is pretty good stuff. So they venture out, they buy that equipment. And whatever is sitting on the table is what your snapshot is looking like. Radio, headphones, hopefully. What antennas? Could be a simple piece of wire, vertical, who knows. Perhaps an antenna tuner. A lot of times the tuner's built into the radio, but there are a lot of times when you need an external tuner. Some sort of an output indicator, maybe a watt meter or something, some sort of relative indicator of, your transmit situation. Computer, keyboard, mouse, kind of the typical setup, and some kind of a logging program. And there's all kinds of different logging programs out there. Again, I tend to use N1MM not only for contesting, but for general logging. There's an actual file in there called general log or general logging, and I use that for all my day-to-day activity. When I do that, it gives me the opportunity to kind of stay focused on the basic programming or the contest aspect of that platform. The functions, some of the frequent function keys I might hit, etc. Some of those can be applied to general logging as well. So at any rate, it kind of keeps me on the same platform, makes it easy to transition from casual operating to a weekend of intense, talking to the world at a high rate, kind of thing. So those are probably pretty much every station is along that same line. Variations all over the map, but that's kind of the basic.
So Mark, let's say that I've checked off that list. I have all those things. I've been pretty thoughtful about wanting to become a contester. What are the other things that are factors that I should be considering?
In episode 1, we talked about control. Here you have all these pieces of equipment that you personally control, and you're hopefully knowledgeable on how they all operate. But there's one variable here that comes to play in all of this is the sun. The solar activity, when we're talking HF and even VHF, there's all kinds of things that are taking place there. But from an HF perspective, the sun has a tremendous effect on the results of any weekend, of any kind of operating. High solar numbers like we're experiencing now in cycle 25, it's amazing on the high bands. But then it can be very short-lived, and you have to be cognizant of that effect on what's going to happen. So you have to kind of temper things a little bit when you start thinking about your equipment and how it's performing. You have to kind of put that in as not as an excuse, but at least something you should be aware of. Oh, I know, situation awareness. Here we go again. But again, it's an issue of the sun has a huge influence on all of this, and I've always taken the position of not even listening to the forecasts about the sun. For upcoming weekend, big contest, whatever, some activity, I don't even worry about that. Because as a minimum, I'm going to learn something. I'm going to discover how lousy it can be on the bands when the sun is not cooperating. But then there are other surprises that happen. The forecast was wrong. You just never know. So why bother even listening, quite honestly? I mean, for those that are out in the audience that, they live and die on that kind of stuff, well, okay, to each their own. But for me personally, I've never really seen much value because I'm going to be there for the weekend. I'm going to be operating, and it is what it is. I'm not going to worry about that. And if I do good, great. And if I do good compared to my competitor down the street, whoever I've determined to be that, or who that might be, wonderful. Now, I've operated contests where the sun had a tremendous negative effect on the weekend. And yet, because I just stayed with it, stayed in the chair, dealt with the adversity of terrible signals, weak signals, all of these things that occur as a result of that, I ended up doing pretty well compared to my local competition, and I won, the plaque or the award or whatever. I forget back. This goes back many years. So, when it comes to the sun, yes, that's a factor, but don't let it slow you down.
Mark, as you know, I have a regular series called The Contest Crew that includes, amongst others, Chris Hurlbut, KL9A. And I remember him saying specifically about this topic that when he enters a contest, whatever conditions he's dealing with, the other contestants are dealing with the same. His point always was, what are my alternatives? And I think it goes back to your situational awareness. If conditions aren't so great on 80 meters, what do you do at that time? Mm-hmm. How do you maneuver through that? What do you think of that?
That learning experience again. You get on, you discover, hey, things aren't going great on some frequency. Well, it motivates you to move to another frequency. And you could discover, hey, at this moment in time, the band was open and I never even considered that. So I learned something, and it's just this incredible accumulative knowledge that takes place, or knowledge gathering that takes place over the course of many years in this aspect of the hobby, that it just becomes invaluable for how you can apply it, later on.
So, Mark, when you talk about gathering more information, what occurs to me is there are potentially a myriad of different things. Should I start making a to-do list? How do I handle this growing list of things I need to identify before the next contest?
Yeah, clearly a list of some kind needs to be created. And you can make that as exotic as you want. It could be as simple as, some antenna's not working, or some part of the world is just not hearing you, like we talked earlier. Could be there's something wrong with my amplifier on a certain band. I need to get that fixed. Okay, that's another item, And every time you operate a weekend and you're essentially stress testing everything you've got in front of you, as well as your own self, you start to develop this list in your head, and ideally you capture it in terms of what do I need to correct or change to make things better. Because when the underlying message here, or the goal, is fun, having fun, and it becomes no longer fun because there's something that went wrong with the station or something's not working, that item should be on your list. So then probably the question is, okay, how do I prioritize that list? You say you've got 10 things that you've just created after a weekend of operating. Like one antenna's not working right, high SWR on something, amplifier's operating a little flaky. What should I do in terms of prioritization? From a cost effectiveness view, how do I attack those critical items that will give me joy and a little happiness and fun, a bigger score, those types of things. So you begin to look at that kind of stuff, and that's probably the best way to we can go deeper into that, but quite honestly, it's what are the things that give you the biggest bang for the buck, as the expression goes, or the best return on investment. That's time and money you're putting in perhaps into some improvement. One other kind of thing that you'll learn, or you should recognize pretty early on, there's a pretty good difference between casual operating and contest operating. And by that I mean you might get on 40 meters in the afternoon and on a Wednesday, and the band's in pretty good shape, and you're getting all these fabulous signal reports. Say, wow, you're the loudest thing on the band. Well, you might be the only signal on the band or in your region. So it gives you this impression of, wow, my station really does work well. This is fantastic. So when I go into the contest weekend, I should just dominate. I should just blow everybody away on 40 meters. And the reality is that it's a whole different universe. You thought you were doing pretty well on a Wednesday afternoon on 40 meters, but when you turn on the radio at 7 p.m. on Friday and the contest has started and you're on 40 meters and you come to a kind of a sudden stop where you hit a wall, basically, that speaks loudly to the fact that, wait a minute, I need to reassess this. I need to rethink this whole thing because I'm not making any contacts. I'm calling people, and there's like 10 other people that get in ahead of me. I'm missing something. Yes, what you're missing is there are so many better, stronger, bigger stations out there, and casual operating does not give you the right, or doesn't give you the right sense in terms of how reality will be during a contest. I've heard this countless times. They thought they had a great setup on 20 meters. I can talk to Europeans, great signal strength both ways, fantastic. And a lot of times they'll come back to me and say, Mark, you're the loudest thing on the band. I mean, it's incredible. But this is a Wednesday morning or something. Come weekend, I'm just average like everybody else with bigger stations and whatever that you're competing with. So that can be a rather significant eye-opening experience. But if you take that in the context as what I'm trying to deliver here, it should help a little bit and ease that frustration and pain.
Actually, I can relate to that story, and I wish somebody had told me that 3 years ago because I've been that person getting on from an island location and not realizing I'm the only person on midweek, and people are digging out my weak signal and pretty happy about it.
Right.
But by the weekend, when the contest starts, it's a totally different experience. So I 100% can relate. So tell me, if that particular experience, that casual operating, may send a wrong message, how best should I plan my on-air activity so I become a better contester?
The simplest answer here is to participate in as many contests as you can. They can be small, large, could be a local, like a state QSO party. And maybe in a contest like that, you might make 20 contacts for the whole weekend. Not great, not the most fun maybe, but it gives you an experience. There may be 3 or 4 contests going on the same weekend. Try them all. It's not a big deal to go from one log page to another log page for a different contest. A matter of a few keystrokes. So you can quickly transition from, okay, I'm talking to this guy in Bulgaria in this contest, and then next QSO is somebody in the Missouri QSO party. So I need a different, format for the log. But it's very easy to do that. But in a perfect world or in a more ideal setting, concentrate on one contest. Pick something that's popular. Pick something that's going to create a lot of target opportunities for you. Where there's many, many stations on the band, where number one, you're going to be competing with lots of signals. So therefore, your signal may not be all that strong. You're going to have a tough time maybe talking to some of these people, but keep working at it. It's a great opportunity to practice some of your pilot busting techniques, timing of your call when you drop it in, when the pilot stops, and you can put your weak little signal into the mess, and suddenly you're picked out of the pilot and you make the contact. But it's all those things you want to kind of test during an event. But it's going to uncover things fairly quickly about your equipment. Is it working? I can't hear people very well. The whole band is loaded with call signs. It's packed 20 over 9 S meter readings. It's like a solid, S meter reading across the entire band. I can't find a clear frequency. It's incredible. Yeah, that's a little challenging, but again, it's a learning opportunity. Maybe in that process you discover, there are people that I can seem to easily work if they're over S9. But anything below that, like S5, S7, maybe I shouldn't even bother because it's going to be a waste of my time. They're not going to hear me. And there's a variety of factors that go into this whole receiving thing on both sides. Local noise issue that could be inhibiting that other station from hearing you. You've got some challenge, or maybe your antenna's just not very efficient. After you were told it was great, you discover maybe it needs some improvement, and you're not competitive in the pileup. But in that process of working through a weekend, of whatever the contest, you kind of get a sense of how well things are working and not working. And then that's the kind of stuff you want to capture on a list in terms of driving what's the first thing I should attack after this contest is over. I'm going to, short of tearing everything down, go incrementally build on those things, incrementally fix one antenna and watch the improvement that occurs in the next contest. So it's that kind of a scenario you need to kind of play for yourself in order to get the most out of it. But clearly, just get on, make contacts, experience it. That's probably the simplest answer.
Well, I love the answer. And part of what I hear is not every contest needs to be a full-on, full-out effort. Get on and make a couple hundred contacts, which makes me think about Dan N6MJ, who, after his huge win in the CQ Worldwide, came home and then I don't know what the next contest was, but he got on and made 200 QSOs. Randy K5ZD, I don't think a weekend goes by without him making a few contacts. So once again, I think we can learn a lot from those like yourself that have come before us. One of the questions I have for you, Mark, as a new contester, how do I know what contests are going on?
Probably the simplest thing to do is maybe check with your local radio club if you're a member. Perhaps you've run across some people on the air that you've worked in a contest. The availability of contact information is so simple these days. QRZ.com. Most people have an email address. Drop them an email. Say, hey, there's this upcoming contest. Is this something, knowing me, we've had a little conversation in the past. I'm just getting started in contesting and I really don't know what I need or what I know or what I don't know, but I'm trying to just kind of get my feet in the water here. What do you think about this upcoming event? It might be somebody on the East Coast thinking about, I want to participate in the All Asian contest. And their antennas are such that, the first JA that they work will be virtually the first one they've ever worked, period. So that may not be the best choice. That could turn out to be an incredibly frustrating experience. Don't do that. So consult with some people that have had some experience. You can learn this yourself just as easily. Get on, participate. And if you're finding, hey, I'm having no success on this particular contest working anybody or so few, or maybe there's very little participation, which is kind of a troubling thing, but does happen. There's some contests just aren't that popular, and that's okay. But again, make those contacts, experience it, learn how the logging works for that particular contest. With N1MM, I think they've got over 500 different contests identified in their base program. So it's kind of fun to be able to select the appropriate contest logging format for that contest and then go through and try it and use it and see how it works. And if anything, as a minimum, you learn more or you get more practice in terms of your keyboarding, the function keys, how do you move your data or how do you move around the fields that you're trying to fill. Tons of opportunity even in the smallest of contests. But again, it's that learning experience, the practice, just the exposure. And it's incredible where that will lead to. Getting back to that whole connectivity and curiosity thing. My God, you run into somebody in a contest, maybe you talk to them over the course of the weekend, you talk to them on 2 or 3 different bands. And they always had a good signal. And they always came back to you immediately every time you called. It's like, wow, I should drop this guy an email. Just set up some communication and understand what's happening on his side. What does he have for equipment? What's his antenna? Why are you so loud on certain bands? And get a little more deeper into what they're doing. Not just, that's all part of the analysis of your own station is how well is that person hearing me? And when you get that data flow going between two people and that connectivity that takes place, immense amount of things happen. It's really, really great.
Mark, how do you feel about the contest calendar by, I think it's WA7 BNM?
That is an excellent resource. Yeah, I have that as, bookmarked on my computer that sits on the operating position. I may come down on a Saturday morning, no real contest in mind, maybe kind of heard about one coming up, but never really thought much about it. I get on, I start listening around, and I discover, oh, there's a lot of activity. I think I'll participate. As a minimum, I'll be giving points to somebody. Maybe I'll be a multiplier for that person. Maybe I can add some value to his excitement in this event. So yes, go to WA7BNM, the contest calendar, look at that almost all the time, and see what's going on. Sometimes I have to look at that just to figure out what is this contest that I'm listening to. They might be saying CQ, EI, UK or something, and I have to go back to the WA7 list, WA7BNM contest list, and see if I can figure out which one are they referring to on this list for this weekend. Eventually I figure it out. Either I can't figure it out immediately through the title or what they're calling for in their CQ message. It might be in the exchange. I notice, in the exchange they're giving their grid square, they're giving their name, all these other extraneous things, whatever. Then I'll go look through that list again, and what's the exchange look like? And I just figured it out. It's this contest. Okay, then I look at the rules. Then I discover, I really should be closer to this center of the world where this contest is taking place. Or maybe I need to be or I need to be actually in the country because it's just a single country-oriented event. Okay, I'm not going to make contacts in that. They're not going to be interested in talking to me if I'm outside the region of their interest. So you have to kind of do that analysis and then maybe make the firm decision that, okay, I'm going to spend a few hours at it. But you're right. You can do as much or as little or as much as you want in these things. Maybe challenge yourself, and I'm going to only spend an hour in this contest. And I've seen the rules. I see the activity level. I think I'm going to challenge myself to make 200 contacts in this next hour and a half or 2 hours or whatever it might be. Or maybe 50 contacts or 10. Or maybe I see it as there's an award opportunity here. If I get so many counties or so many regions, that country offers a nice certificate. So there's so many little things that you can pursue in this whole learning experience about your own station by participating in these hundreds of different contests that are out there. It's a fantastic opportunity, and you don't want to miss that.
Mark, one of the things I've heard you say, and others, that contesting at its core is about having fun. But there is a natural tension because if you are a contester, there's a certain amount of competition, right? So we're having fun, but there's probably some sort of competitive angle. The question I want to ask is there a danger in setting expectations that aren't met and maybe becoming demoralized? And how do you prevent that? How do you keep yourself excited by not setting the bar too high? Might be one way of putting it.
Yeah, it's the overarching theme is fun, like you've mentioned. And when it's no longer fun, at least in my mind, this is the way, again, coming from my own experience. I can't speak for anyone else who's doing contesting or have experienced contesting. My theme in this whole thing has always been, or my motivation in all of this has been having the fun, having enjoyment. And that fun can be as simple as testing an antenna. I went in with the intention of really, I just want to see how some things are working that I made improvements to. And I want to just kind of test those things. But when the competitive side comes up, it can come in so many different forms. It can come literally competing against someone that's got a similar station or your best friend down the street, and you've always had kind of a thing between the two of you about who's better at this kind of activity. That's all good and well, but you don't want to knock yourself out to, at least you shouldn't. I mean, life shouldn't be like that. Yeah, it should be enjoyable. But the competition, it tends to drive you to the next level. You learn things, as I've stated. You end up developing a list of action items that you can apply, and then most theory will show that it will improve your score. But you can make mistakes too. You can think, maybe the improvement I put on my list here really was pointless. It didn't really add any value. So you learn that too, but that's okay. I mean, everything is fair in this whole game. So keeping that perspective of competition and the fun aspect of it, I think, is important. But again, I think it tends to propel each and every one of us, just the competitive side of it. Like, I got through a pileup and my friend didn't. In the multi-ops that I've hosted at my house over the years, occasionally one of the operators will have a bit of an outburst and say, hey, I just beat K3LR to some multiplier. And, everybody gets a big laugh out of that because the probability of that happening is like, 0.02%. It's so low, but occasionally it happens, timing, something occurred where you were able to get in ahead of that big station down the street. So that just makes the whole element of the competition even more exciting.
Well, Mark, I really appreciate the insight that you're giving to us all about ham radio contesting. Looking forward to episode 3. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me again. Take care.
My name is Kevin Thomas, W1DED. This is Q5 Ham Radio. This has been the second part in our series about ham radio contesting. If you enjoy what you're watching, please follow us and watch out for episode 3, 73.